just the second time. The Niners won both meetings this season. They outscored Seattle 48-20. The Niners' Brock Purdy, he's thrown 11 touchdowns since taking over for Jimmy G, making his first career start in Week 14, tied for the most of any player over that span. As we now go back to rainy Levi's Stadium and Kimberly Martin for more on the teammates' faith in Brock Purdy.
Hannah, talk to anyone in the 49ers front office or locker room and they'll tell you the same thing. None of them thought Brock Purdy would play this well, but they all point to his self-confidence, his swagger, and his focus. They said that was on display when he was a scout team quarterback and even in Week 13 against the Dolphins when he was called into action. Tight end George Kittle told me it is so impressive the fact that he didn't know that he was even going to play this year and, based on what we've seen, how much he means to us on the field. But Kittle said all we've told him this week is, hey, just do what you've been doing. Get us the ball and we'll take care of it because what you're doing is more than enough. Now, Hannah, meanwhile, the Seahawks, they are playing loose because guess what? No one thought they would be here either. Geno Smith said, you know what? When we play well and the way we're supposed to, we can beat anyone.
Now, Geno Smith, comeback player of the year, but it's going to be very difficult for both quarterbacks today. Ball security is going to be at a premium. Look at the scene right now at Levi's Stadium. The rain is coming down really hard. It is going to continue raining. 100% chance of rain for kickoff, although probably not this hard of a rain. Jay?
All right, Hannah, a time now for our final drive, focusing on tomorrow's wildcard matchups. The Dolphins and Bills split a pair of games this season. Both teams winning at home, both games decided by 3 points or less. This is the 5th playoff meeting between the teams. Miami's Tua Tagovailoa remains in the concussion protocol, so rookie Skylar Thompson will get the start, facing the 3-time defending AFC East champion Bills. Reports now on both teams, starting with our Dolphins reporter, Marcel Louis-Jacques.
After their instant classic at Highmark Stadium in Week 15, Bills quarterback Josh Allen said the Dolphins are a team they would probably see again. Miami hoping he's not as clairvoyant when it comes to countering their game plan for Sunday, which revolves heavily around containing the Bills' dynamic quarterback. Dolphins outside linebackers coach Ty McKenzie said Allen is such an elite talent. If all 11 guys on defense aren't in sync, well, you've seen the highlights. Linebacker Jalen Phillips agreed, saying they have to keep their rush lane integrity when facing a scrambler like Allen. Dolphins are heavy underdogs this week as the line has continued to climb, but it's not like they needed any more motivation. Phillips said, as long as I'm a Dolphin, I'll always get up for the Bills game because we know it's going to be a dogfight.
Buffalo Bills left tackle Deion Dawkins compared playing the Dolphins for a 3rd time this season to dating, as only he can, saying that by the 3rd date, you better know whether or not they like lemon drops or Shirley Temples. But all that to say, the Bills have a sense of what to expect when the Dolphins come to town right here in Orchard Park on Sunday. And while the line for this game has ballooned due to injuries on the Dolphins side, this experienced Bills team is not looking past their opponent. Center Mitch Morse said that in situations like this, when the stakes are high, it's important not to get too rigid. While quarterback Josh Allen said, this is everything the Bills wanted because the playoffs give them the chance to win the Super Bowl.
And moving on, in Week 16, the Giants lost to the Vikings 27-24 on that last-second 61-yard field goal. So Sunday, the G-men have a chance at redemption in the wild card rematch. New York chose to rest its starters in Week 18, and remarkably, no one is on the injury report as they look to Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley to exploit that weak Vikings play-action defense. On the other side, Kirk Cousins hopes to continue his much-improved play against the Blitz. These are the 2 best teams in the NFL in one-score games. For more on the matchup, we start with Jordan Raanan and the G-men.
Speaking with several Giants in the locker room this week, it's apparent they thought they should have won the previous matchup with the Vikings. Instead, because of key miscues late, they lost on a 61-yard field goal as time expired. I asked defensive coordinator Wink Martindale what he learned from that game this week, and he said they're really good. Seeing that talent up close and personal is different, especially number 18, wide receiver Justin Jefferson. But it was that day that Martindale learned he has a playoff defense. He expressed that to them after the game. We'll find out for sure on Sunday in Minnesota.
As they prepared for Sunday's wildcard playoff game, the Minnesota Vikings knew one thing for sure. The New York Giants are going to come after them. The Giants sent at least one extra pass rusher on 43% of Kirk Cousins' dropbacks in the team's Week 16 matchup at US Bank Stadium, sacking him 4 times and hitting him on 9 other occasions. Cousins did throw for 299 yards and 3 scores in that game, but on this go-around, with a patchwork offensive line caused by a series of injuries, the Vikings will have their work cut out to protect Cousins. Offensive coordinator Wes Phillips said he expects Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale to be aggressive with a few new twists, but the Vikings spent the week working to come up with answers for every possibility. He's going to have something for us, Phillips said, and we've got something for him, too.
Now to the first playoff meeting between the Ravens and Bengals, who split the season series. Baltimore winning a tight one Week 3 with Lamar, but losing last week without him. No Lamar this week either. It'll be either undrafted rookie Anthony Brown or Tyler Huntley, who is nursing a right shoulder injury. The Bengals, meanwhile, trying to win a playoff game in back-to-back seasons for the first time ever. Our Ravens reporter Jamison Hensley with the first of 2 reports on this matchup.
The Ravens won't have Lamar Jackson to start the postseason, but Baltimore does have a huge chip on its shoulder. Ravens players were not pleased when the Bengals insinuated that there was dirty play in last week's game between these teams. Asked if he saw anything that had crossed the line, Ravens middle linebacker Roquan Smith smiled and said, "See you Sunday." Baltimore enters the postseason as a major underdog without Lamar Jackson. Ravens tight end Mark Andrews said, "There's only one Lamar," but he expressed a lot of confidence in both backup quarterbacks, Tyler Huntley and Anthony Brown. Andrews told me, "There's a lot of hunger here for sure."
Just like their star quarterback, Cincinnati's offensive line won't be playing scared against the Ravens, even though it's without a couple key starters. The Bengals are confident that right guard Max Sharping and right tackle Hakeem Adeniji can step into starting roles and play well throughout the postseason. I spoke to Bengals left guard Cordell Volson, and he said the offensive line has built chemistry throughout the year, knows his responsibilities, and is ready for the next man to step up when needed.
Thanks, fellas. Now, should this wild-card matchup come down to the fourth quarter, it's worth noting that Joe Burrow's play down the stretch is strong. He's been one of the league's best quarterbacks in the fourth quarter, ranking top 3 in QBR, passing touchdowns, and first down rate. Now, the Ravens' defense, on the other hand, has struggled in the fourth quarter. They've allowed the league's highest QBR. We saw that many times this season, particularly early when they gave up some of those big leads, as Tim Hasselbeck is back with us. But that defense, we've been talking about how much improved they are with the addition of Roquan Smith. So set the table for today. How do the Bengals score enough points, given that that's going to be tough to come by for the Ravens to really put this game out of reach?
Yeah, I think that's the key and something to keep in terms of the context of this football game. I think the other thing is this. You look back to the matchup last week, Cincinnati threw it 42 times. Like, to me, that's not the formula that you want if you're the Cincinnati Bengals in this environment. And so we've seen at different points this year Cincinnati get pretty physical with the run game. They did it even when Samaje Perine was the starter because Mixon was out because of an injury. But now they have backs healthy. We heard Ben Baby's report in terms of the guys filling in on the offensive line. Let those guys come off the ball, run the football, have more balance. And I think that if you do that, you're protecting Joe Burrow. You're protecting him for the rest of the postseason, because I do think the Ravens are an overmatched team in this game, especially with the quarterback situation. So with that context, I think having more balance, not throwing it 40-something times, is the right recipe.
He's got injuries, too, on the right side of that line we have to pay attention to. And 2 of his 3 worst QBRs of the season did come against those Baltimore Ravens.
Tim, let's stay in the AFC for the Chargers, Jags. What's your tip for Jacksonville?
I love the way Jacksonville has been playing recently. I think Doug Peterson's done a great job. I think his team has improved throughout the season. And one of the things they've done a great job is they've gotten Trevor Lawrence on the move. When people look at him and think of him, they think of him as a pocket passer, and he is, but he's great on the move as well because of his athleticism. And so much of that comes off of their ability to run the football. You go back to the first matchup when these teams played in the regular season. Now, granted, it was forever ago. There's a lot of different players, but they were extremely effective running the football. And so I think that it's a lot of Travis Etienne. I think he ends up having a huge game. But then off of that is the move the pocket plays for Trevor Lawrence, something that he's excelled at. I think it's one of the reasons that year 2 has been way better than year 1 for Trevor. I think some of that, is part of the plan.
Yeah, Chargers really struggle against the run, too.
Yeah, Trevor, 6 touchdowns outside the pocket this season, 6